4 Olympic golds, a spot in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and now an MD. But Hayley Wickenheiser will tell you that the real victory isn't on the scoreboard. Today, she's here to share how you can stay resilient and joyful through every chapter of life. Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Today, we are speaking with Hayley Wickenheiser.
I had two dreams. One was to win a Stanley Cup for the Edmonton Oilers, and the other one was to be a doctor. I suppose along the way I've been able to do some form of both.
Hayley Wickenheiser.
Hayley Wickenheiser.
She's one of the best women hockey players ever.
An Olympic multi-gold medalist.
And if that weren't enough, a doctor.
What are your top tips for being comfortable with being uncomfortable?
My whole hockey career was kind of built on that. I was constantly hitting roadblocks. As a kid, nobody wanted the girl on the team. Then I played professional men's hockey, and they actually made rules in countries like Italy that no woman could play in the first division. But I kind of had already trained myself that...
Oh my gosh. How did you keep your sense of self-worth?
Well, it's a really good question. I just am a real big believer that adversity is there to teach us a lesson we either need to learn. And sometimes it's worth it to fight and push back.
I think everyone needs to know that. How do you control emotions during stressful times or under pressure, and do you have any tips for others?
If I'm in a very stressful situation, I try to remind myself to just take a breath. If I just inhale and exhale, all of a sudden my entire body has to relax. And then I tell myself, you know what?
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Hayley.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to chat with you guys.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
Yes, we are just so excited to have you on. You are an iconic Canadian, and from two people from Calgary, this is just extremely exciting. You've had such a dynamic career playing in hockey and now as a doctor and assistant general manager of the Toronto Leafs. So how did your journey begin, and what started your path into hockey?
Well, I grew up in Shaunavon, Saskatchewan, so it's about a 4.5-hour drive from Calgary, and then our family moved to Calgary when I was about 12 years old. So my journey began just wanting to play, a small town, there's not much to do in the winter. It's play hockey or curling, and I thought curling was kind of boring, so I was going to be a hockey player. And my dad built a rink in our backyard for myself and my younger brother and sister, and that's kind of where the dream started. So I had two dreams. One was to win a Stanley Cup for the Edmonton Oilers, and the other one was to be a doctor. So I suppose along the way I've kind of been able to do some form of both of those.
That's so amazing. I love how you were able to pursue both dreams. I feel like a lot of times as teenagers, we feel like we have to pick one or the other, one that, we might be better at, or one that's more academically achievable. And I feel like that's so inspiring that you were able to do both.
Especially because I think so many people, like if you're as two teenagers in high school, everyone's kind of trying to navigate and figure out, okay, do I want to go into the arts or the sciences? And once I make that choice, that's kind of where I'm at forever. And so I love that aspect of your story, that you've been so successful in different kind of disciplines and fields. I think that's an important reminder.
Well, I grew up with, my parents were both teachers, so they understand, and they were junior high and high school and elementary. They did all three, but they kind of, I think, really understood what it was like to be a kid, be a teenager, and that the most important thing in our house was to try lots of different things and to not put yourself in a box. Like, because you're A, you should do B. You can be and do whatever you want to do. So I was super interested in science in junior high and high school, and I remember with my dad, we'd make all these science experiments growing up in our little town, and we'd go to the gym at the school all the time on the weekends and play all sorts of different sports. And so I just grew up with this environment that it's good to try lots of different things. And we had two rules. One was you had to pick a sport or be active, and the second was you had to choose an instrument, because my dad was a drummer also in a rock band growing up, and he believed that everyone should learn how to play an instrument. So I reluctantly picked the piano, which I despised. But the thing was, when we turned 12, we could decide if we wanted to keep it or ditch it. And so I quickly quit it at 12, but at least I could sit down and play a little bit now. And I think for kids, it's just the biggest thing is society kind of wants us to be one thing and fit in a box, and I've never really believed in that. And I think I came from an environment where it was okay to be different, do things that weren't maybe traditional, and and dare to dream. And that's why I've been able to do what I've done, I think.
Incredible.
that.
I think, Anastasia and I, we also picked instruments, and so we did piano as well. And I was always trying to like wiggle my way out of the practices.
Yeah.
I was like, no, today I have so much homework, I can't do it. And so like once I got to my older years of high school, I stopped doing it out of time. But I am glad that I did it when I was doing it.
Yeah,
in retrospect.
me too.
Yes.
We were doing it was piano and art classes, and our teacher
Yeah.
taught both. And Mercedes definitely got out of it faster
tried.
than I did.
Yes.
Well, for me, if they would have let me play like Sarah McLachlan or things I was interested in, but it was always like this classical stuff that I couldn't resonate with, and it was just like boring. So it was just boring. And I think when you're bored, you just don't want to do something, right? So anyway, you found your way.
Mercedes and I somehow managed to play Disney songs on the piano, so
Yes.
it was more entertaining that way.
It was, yes.
Absolutely. And did you feel a lot of pressure on you from family, teammates, or even yourself while you were playing hockey? And where did you see your hockey career going from when you were a teenager?
Well, I didn't really feel pressure. I played because I loved it, and if anything, my parents were the complete opposite. They would many times ask me, like I was the only girl playing with the boys in the little town that I came from, and they would say, this is getting kind of hard. You sure you want to keep going? Because I faced a lot of adversity to play, a lot of criticism, a lot of like harassment and verbal abuse and things like that. But I always was very internally driven. And so I think a lot of times they just sort of stepped out of the way and just sort of like let her go. I put more pressure on myself than anybody ever has or could. And that's just, I think, the way that I'm sort of made and wired. But also a little bit it comes from the environment that I grew up in, which was people would say a girl doesn't play hockey, and I would, in my mind, be thinking like, well, I'll prove you wrong. And so for a lot of my young life into my early 20s, I just spent a lot of energy feeling like every time I stepped on the ice, I had to prove that girls belonged and that they're going to leave the rink and go, that's a good hockey player, that's not a girl that plays hockey. That was kind of a goal of mine. And then the pressure, I think, came, as I started to ascend in my career with the national team. I started when I was 15 on the national team, and you're going to world championships and Olympic games. And then that becomes a different sort of pressure. And so managing that was not always easy. But I think I had such a supportive environment at home that, whether I played good and scored 4 goals or I played the worst game of my life, my parents were just the same. Like they were like, oh yeah, that was a good game, or oh yeah, that was a good game. Like they just really were just always there, but never putting extra pressure. So I think that made a big difference for me, and they understood that I was already internally pretty driven.
Totally. I think having like those rocks, those anchors, like people that are there for you, whether it's, really an awesome day or an awesome situation in your life or a more tricky one, is important. And I really love what you said about kind of proving that girls can be, really great at hockey, because I think that's so important. And it's when you have like a higher mission rather than just fulfilling something for yourself, but like for a bigger body of people, I think that is just an additional driver. And so I really admire that, and I think that's something that we all need to think about, like how is what I'm doing able to contribute to more people. Like even if it's just like studying to become a doctor, that still impacts a lot of people. And even if it's like being a teacher or an artist, whatever somebody might be interested in, how can like you kind of broaden your perspective so that you can feel more kind of driven, especially on the challenging days.
No, for sure. And I think a big thing too is I grew up watching my mom and dad. They were always in the community volunteering and teachers. And to this day, my mom and dad taught in Calgary for a long time and also in Saskatchewan, but I still have people that will come up to me in an airport somewhere or whatever, and they'll say, your mom or dad taught me. And usually I'll say, well, did you like them? And usually it's a yes. Sometimes it's, well, your mom was really strict. But they'll say what an impact it was. So you don't have to be a famous person or somebody that's got 1 million followers on social media or whatever it is to have an influence in people's lives. And that was something that I got a chance to see young with my mom and dad. And you're right, when you do something outside of yourself for a greater cause, you usually get back way more than you're giving out, and it's amazing what the impact is. Kind of like what you guys are doing with your podcast.
We all need more happiness in our life, and we also all need some good happy gift ideas. And we've got you covered with Mission's Small Bits of Happiness, a happiness wellness activity box Anastasia and I designed together. It's basically a game. You do a card a day to build happy habits, learn what brings happiness, and connect with kids, family, friends, or just learn more about yourself. So whether you're shopping for a teen, for a tween, a child, or your family, this is an incredible gift. Shop now, it's linked in the show notes. Thank you.
I think that's so
Absolutely.
beautiful on how you still will get people come up to you to talk to you about how effective your parents have been
Yeah.
on the lives of so many people.
And
I
it's so
think
true. We don't
so
need to be like
beautiful.
celebrities or stars of
Exactly.
any kind.
There's-
Everyone can make an impact.
There's so much impact that
Yeah.
can be given by just doing something that you're passionate about.
And it's just like the fact, being intentional, realizing how am I impacting others and how can I be better in that way. With any sport, there's always kind of this discomfort to get better and grow, whether it's physical training or like getting through a tough, practice, whatever it might be. And I think this applies to so many different aspects in life. What are your top tips for being comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. So do the hard thing, do the hard thing. So if there's not that everything in life should be hard, but when you hit a crossroads and it's like, oh, this is going to be hard, or I could just take the easier way out, often doing the hard thing in the end gives you confidence. It makes you proud of yourself. It proves to yourself, you prove to yourself that you can do hard things. So when I went into medical school, when you start medicine, you don't really know anything. And I kind of had this philosophy that anytime someone asked me if I did something or if have you ever put a chest tube in before? Or have you ever intubated someone? If I hadn't, I would say no, but I'm happy to do it if you'll show me how. So do the hard thing. And then what I found is, because I have this motto in my life, but in medicine now, which is suck a little less every day. So I know when I started out, I was going to suck. And I'm still sucking at things, but I'm sucking a little less every time I do them. So I think that it's just part of a fail forward and do hard things, because what you'll prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you ever thought. And my whole hockey career was kind of built on that, where I was constantly hitting roadblocks. As a kid, nobody, often wanted the girl on the team. And then I played midget AAA and I got cut because I was a girl. Then I played professional men's hockey, and they actually made rules in countries like Italy that no woman could play in the first division because of what I was trying to do. So it was just very difficult, but I kind of had already sort of trained myself that doing the hard thing is a good thing, and it's helped me a lot.
That's so crazy on how in places like Italy there became a rule. That is absolutely crazy.
What kept, when you have this kind of pushback, whether it's, rejection from someone else, or in your case, people putting up barriers towards what you could do or not picking you for a team, how did you keep your sense of self-worth? How did that impact your sense of self-worth?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question, because when I was your guys' age, I was 15 years old, and I was playing midget AAA in Calgary, and I remember we went on a bus trip to Medicine Hat, and I played, I think, 11 games or something like that in the season, and I played really well that weekend. We came back to Calgary at Father David Bauer Arena, and the coach called me into his office, and he said, you know what, I'm just not comfortable with having a girl on the team, so I'm going to have to let you go. And my mom was waiting in the parking lot. We didn't really have cell phone at that time. I'm not that old, but we didn't have cell phones at that time, or I didn't have one. So she had no idea. So I got in the car and she's like, oh, sounded like things went well. And I went, yeah, I just got cut. And so my mom got so mad. She wanted to drive over and, cause a scene. And I just said, no, you know what, Mom, I'm just gonna prove them wrong. I'm gonna make the national team, and I'm gonna prove them wrong. And that's actually what ended up happening. Was that door closed, but another door opened for me, which was I made the national team at the age of 15, and the rest is history. I found a different place to play, and on it goes. So I just am a real big believer that adversity is there to teach us sometimes things, that a lesson we either need to learn or to take us into a different direction. And sometimes it's worth it to fight and push back. But a lot of times it's worth just to take the high road. The high road always wins in life, and go a different direction, and you'd be surprised what door can open up. So, but those hard times, they do make you stronger. They really suck at the time, though. I was pretty devastated, I have to say.
I bet. That's so crazy. But I really admire how, you just instead pivoted and were like, no, they don't want me on that team, but that doesn't mean that, my hockey career is done. It just means that I have a different place somewhere else, and it turned out to be 100% the case. And I think it's a powerful reminder of, like, in any situation or in any case, like, focus on the people who support you, the people who like you, the things that are going well. Like, even if, for a teenager, if someone doesn't want to be friends with you or sit with you, focus on the people who do. In business, if, you don't fit into a certain demographic, find where you do fit. And I think just when you can focus on the people who are there for you, or the opportunities that are there for you, it seems a lot less kind of pessimistic at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The one thing too is I didn't get into medical school the first try. It took me 2 tries to get in, and I, kids, and you're going on to university and you're looking at post-secondary stuff, or even in school, you don't make a school team or a club or whatever. Just try again. And you might have to change, or you might have to be adaptable or do it differently the next time. I learned a lot from the first time going through it, and the second time I eventually got in. But I think people would maybe not think that I didn't get into med school the first time, but I didn't. And that's just part of life, that we all have to go through failure, and you're stronger for it at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it's like you say, fail forward. I love that.
I
Just
love that.
Take what you have learned and just try again or try differently. Yeah.
Exactly.
In terms of kind of on a different note, it's interesting, I think, because pro hockey and medicine, I think both come with a lot of like timely pressure and emotion. And sometimes I think making decisions and staying focused during a game, or like while you're on call dealing with someone who's sick, can be very stressful and difficult. So how do you control emotions during stressful times or under pressure? And do you have any tips for others?
Oh, yeah. No, you guys have some great questions. So for controlling emotions, so the biggest thing for me, I'll talk about medicine first, and I'll go backwards to hockey because it's the most recent thing for me. But if I'm in a very stressful situation, I try to remind myself to just take a breath, because it's as simple as, if I just inhale and exhale, all of a sudden my entire body has to relax. And then I tell myself, you know what, you have time, and I have a bit of an algorithm. So in medicine, we call it ABCs: airway, breathing, circulation, and then D, E, F, G. There's a few more other things depending on what's happening. But I have a plan. I generally have a plan every time something happens, that I can always go back to take a breath, ABCs, and slow down. And then what am I going to do next? When I was dealing with pressure on the ice in hockey, when I had a bad shift, for example, I would take a drink out of my water bottle and spit it on the ice. So I was like literally spitting out a bad shift. I can't really do that in the hospital, but sometimes I'll actually literally just walk out of the emergency department into the hall for like 5 seconds where nobody is, and just take a breath and regroup, and then walk back in. So sometimes just like leaving a situation and coming back to it, using your breath. And then keywords. So I used to have on my stick, I would have like jump, easy speed written on my stick with tape. And so when I was having a bad game, or I just wasn't feeling good, I would just look down at my stick, and it was like, okay, this jump meant just play free, and easy speed just meant like let it go, don't think about it, just go for it. So those things helped. And then the other thing with pressure is sometimes that we put pressure on ourselves because we think that we're the only person in the world that could possibly be dealing with this. And what I often did is, because I got to play on teams, and I still do in the world of medicine, is I will tell myself, like, you're not the only person on the ice or on the team. There's 20 other players that have to share the responsibility. You just have to do your job. And the same thing in medicine. I'm only one person. I can't do all the things all at once. So I need my nurses and the other staff I'm working with to help me do all the things. And we're just going to take it step by step. And when you become really present in the moment, you can't be stressed about other things. You can't possibly be thinking about other things. So one foot in front of each other, kind of micro chunking things down into small bites that you can handle, makes the big, scary thing seem less scary.
Absolutely. I think it's so beautiful how you can also not just internalize it. I feel like it's so easy to have that kind of mindset where this is only happening to me, and that it's like individualized. Well, when you realize that there are so many other people that like you're a part of a team with, whether it's your team for hockey, whether it's your classmates, whether it's your team of people you're working with at the hospital, there's other people who are also you're sharing that responsibility with, can really help you kind of zoom out and look bigger picture.
Exactly. And I love the ritual of just like letting go of the bad, you know, when you were on the hockey team, just like letting go of the bad. I think that's such a nice way to think about like cleansing, like just moving on from that and moving into a more positive mindset, because I think sometimes when we spiral, it can feel like it's like weighing down on us. And so that's kind of a nice way to let it go in a way.
Absolutely.
I would also give myself worry time. So I would say, okay, for the next hour, you're allowed to be stressed out about this thing, and then at 10 o'clock, you can't be stressed anymore. And it's amazing when you actually talk to yourself, internal self-talk in that way. I would actually be able to do that, to let it go. So kind of freak out time, I called it.
I
I
love
like
that.
I like that a lot. And hockey and medicine are both the careers that have a lot of pressure. Which have you found to be more stressful, and what are the biggest similarities between the two?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I would say that it's a tough thing, but I'll never have as much pressure or stress that I had in hockey trying to win like an Olympic gold medal or something like that, because it was the pressure and stress I internally put on myself. Now, medicine, the stakes are much higher because you're dealing sometimes with someone's life at stake or whatever it is. So not to diminish that, but the pressure I feel is very different, because I know that there's only so many things that I can do to help someone. And at the end of the day, sometimes we just can't, save someone or help them or do the thing that they need us to do. And so I'm able to let go of that a lot easier than I was in hockey, where I think I felt like I was more responsible for the outcome at times, which is kind of a little crazy too, but the pressure was really high for me that way. So for some reason, what I've done in hockey equips me in medicine to be able to like let go of things much better than I could when I was in sport.
That's so fascinating. I think it's true. Like the situation changes so much. Like I know even in terms of like business, how we do, I feel a lot more pressure on like myself to like, make sure I get everything done on time, make sure that I'm organized. And then when I get to school, say in a group project, maybe this is not good, but I feel less pressure on myself because I'm like, well, like I obviously still care about how I do it in my class, but it's shared with someone else, and it's like, it's just a different context, a different situation. And I think in that sense, it's just different. It's interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us, I know that I've heard you tell this story before, and it's really relevant to our podcast. So tell us about the time that you were at the Olympics and won the silver medal instead of the gold.
Oh yeah, this story. Yeah. So I was 19 and I went to my first Olympics, and I thought we were going to win a gold medal. I never thought twice about losing. I thought, okay, well, we're Canada, we're good at hockey, and we just win gold medals. And so at the end of that Olympics, I was standing on the blue line with a silver medal around my neck, and I was looking across those darn Americans with the gold and thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to let them see me cry. So I kind of kept looking up so that the tears wouldn't come down. And then the second thing was like, I never want to feel this way again. It was just the worst feeling. And I went back to Calgary, and probably for about 7-8 months after that Olympics was in a real funk, a rut. And we call it like an Olympic depression. I was pretty down, and I just couldn't get back on my feet. And so my coach at the time, his name is Wally Kozak. He's actually from Calgary too, an amazing guy. And he kind of got tired of seeing me feel sorry for myself all this time. So he came to the rink one day with a piece of paper, and the piece of paper said, a gold medal is a wonderful thing, but if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. And so basically what that meant was you are not what you do. So for me, I was a hockey player, but I was also other things. I was a student, I was a friend, I was a daughter, I was all of these things. I was 19 years old, and I couldn't separate that me having success or failure as a hockey player did not make me a good or bad person. And so failing on the ice meant I was a failure in life to me at that time. So it was a really important lesson in perspective, and a reminder that win or loss, we all wear other hats in our life and we do other things. And it's really dangerous to be caught up in the one thing or identify yourself as just one thing in life. So I had to sort of lose at the beginning of my career to learn how to win again, I think. And it sucked, but it was good in the end.
I love that. That's such a beautiful phrase. Lose in the beginning to win again later. I
love it.
That's absolutely amazing. And I think we all need to realize that what grade we get on a test, or something small or something big that we really
like
tie
a medal
ourselves to,
yeah.
exactly, doesn't define who we are in all aspects of our life.
Exactly. I think it's so easy to get caught up in the different kind of accolades that you can get, but at the end of the day, like your coach reminded you of, if that wasn't enough, then the next thing, then you're just going to be looking for the next thing. I think there's always something else you can have.
It's never going to be enough. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and on that note, how do you approach now not tying your worth to your achievements?
Well, I think now I'm older and a little bit wiser. And I've done a lot and achieved a lot in terms of external awards and accolades and things like that. And as you go through life, you realize that those things are nice and they're cool, but it's not really what means much to me at the end of the day. So for me, it's doing meaningful work, like you guys were talking about earlier. So whether it's my work in medicine, the work I do with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I love helping players and being a part of trying to win something bigger than yourself. My hockey festival, Wickfest, that we've held is 16 years now. We work with 30,000 kids across really North America and around the world. So that kind of stuff is kind of what fills me up. And when somebody calls and they want to give you an award or this or that, I kind of don't really like doing that stuff, but you do it because it's kind of part of the gig. But it's really at the end of the day when you sit down and you think about the things that you hold on to. It's not even the Olympic medals for me. They're somewhere in a bag and I take them out to show people. But what it is it's remember that bus trip to Grand Prairie when we got stuck in the snowstorm and then we all ran into Tim Hortons and did this stupid thing? And all of the fun stuff that we did as a team, the parties we had, the good times, the wins and losses, that's what I think is meaningful in a career. Not so much what the external people and things are telling us.
Yes, 100%. It's so important to focus on the people, the connections, the memories, because at the end of the day, even in terms of school, you're not going to remember what you got on the test. You're not going to remember if someone else got the prize and you didn't get it. I think it's the connections you build, the memories you make, and the lessons you learn and skills that you take along with you, 100%.
Well, and I can tell you guys that my first exam in med school, the passing grade was 67 and I got 68. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was 38 years old and I thought, this is going to be a long 3 years. I'm going to barely, I don't know how to learn. I'm going to fail the next one. And I just again, stepped back, took a breath and said, you know what, that's just one exam on population health, which I not even interested in. It's going to get better. And it got better. So, one result doesn't make or break anything.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's sometimes also so important to look in the big picture. If you have a good track record, if you always do well on a test and then you just absolutely bomb one, that doesn't mean all of a sudden you're a bad student or that, this is going to become a new track record.
Exactly.
It's just an outlier in your average of tests or performances.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to learn to throw it in the garbage and just move on.
Exactly. And Hayley, you were the first woman to play full-time in professional men's hockey, which is so, in a position other than goalie, which is it's so inspiring. And do you have any advice for teens for taking the less conventional path to doing something that you love?
Yeah, so, I've sort of talked a little bit about it was hard for me in the sense that being the only female with the boys as a little girl and then as a teenager with the boys and then now professional men's hockey in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language. I played 2 years in Finland and 1 year in Sweden. I remember the first practice that I played in Finland, there was 100 media from around the world that were lining up around the rink to sort of film this woman that had come to play because they thought I was a publicity stunt. And when I stepped out on the ice and I started skating, I could hear the gasp in the arena, people going oh, oh, she can actually skate. And so it was, and then that season, our team won the title in the second division to move to the first division in the league there in Finland. And so it was kind of this fairy tale story, because how could you win with a girl on the team, sort of thing. So for me, I had just done this since I was so young and so little. And my dad would always say, you know, when people say mean things, it's more of a reflection on how they feel inside themselves than it is on you. So my dad would always say, just beat them on the scoreboard, which meant just put the goals and the assist up and just keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and just play hard. And that's really like kind of my motto, like for my life, is like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I don't really care if you approve or not. This is my dream and my path, and knowing that it's going to be hard and I'm going to take a lot of lumps and bumps. But when I got back knocked down, I would just get back up again. And there were days when, trust me, the tears flowed, and I would say, you know, like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, all of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, my love, deep love for the game of hockey kept me going. Because I'd say, no, I have a right to be out here. No one's going to take my dream away. And I want to play at the highest level that I can. So I was a little bit stubborn, a little bit crazy, and then a love for the game. I think those three things.
Oh, I love that.
That's
I think that's a really good combination that anyone can find, is like sometimes you just have to be willing to, you know, go through some challenges to come out on the other end. Like sometimes it's not always going to be super easy the entire time, but at the end of the day, like as long as it's, you know, still like something that you're passionate about and worth pursuing, then you need to just keep going, because there's just like, if you're going to take a career or a path that is conventional, there's still going to be challenges and pushback. So you may as well experience that, but do it, maybe even if it's a little more pushback, doing something that you really love.
And I really love what you mentioned about how the way that other people act and, you know, say things about you is always a reflection of themselves. Because I really do believe that, and I feel like it can be so easy to get caught up in what other people are saying, especially as teenagers, where this is a big time of change and there can be a lot of insecurities and fears because you don't really know what you want or how your future is going to end up looking like, and there's a lot of stress happening, and it can sometimes result in not always being the kindest. And oftentimes we can be like, why are these people acting this way towards me when I feel like I haven't really done anything? And realizing that it's not, it was never about you, it was always about them in the first place, and focusing on yourself instead of trying to say, I'm going to get them back for what they said about me, or just focusing on your path and realizing that, you know, to take the high road, like you mentioned earlier.
Yes, I love that.
Hockey is the epitome of a team sport where all the players are really dependent on one another. How can we be better at teamwork? And in life, what makes a good teammate, whether as a friend or partner or in sport?
Yeah, I love that question. So I can tell, coming out of team sports my whole life, and I'm going into the medical world, I can tell often when I work with people if they've been on a team or not in life. It doesn't have to be a sport, if they've just been involved with something. Because great teammates, they often understand how to communicate, they work hard, they share both the success and failure of the team. When things go well, everybody shares in that, but when things don't go well, do people run away? Do they point the finger? Do they blame? Or do they accept responsibility? And good teammates do that. And good teammates have your back when things go wrong. They lift you up when you've fallen down. And when you're not at your best, they often will point it out to you and say, hey, you can be better. I've seen you do better, or you need to be better. So I think those are some signs of great teammates. And being a good teammate often comes down to being able to listen and to understand the people you're working with, but also know maybe who they are away from just, if it was hockey, away from just being on the hockey team, do you know your teammates and what they're like when they go home? Do you know what their families are like? People you work with that, when they're not at work, who are they and what are they doing? I think when you learn about people, you're more likely to understand and accept them for who they are. And, we've all played on teams and been around teams where we don't always love all of our teammates, but I find that I've had teammates that I wouldn't, generally like hang out with or be friends with away from the rink, but I have this common level of respect. And if you don't have that respect, I think you can't really be a good team. So I think those types of things are what I think about with good teammates. And then the other great part of being on a team is that you can have fun and share in the fun with each other and do crazy things. And I think celebrating the little wins along the way is really important. We all play for Olympic gold medals and Stanley Cups and things like that, but there's lots of little successes that people have and teams have along the way that if you lose sight of those, you probably aren't going to get to the big one at the end.
Yes, it's true. And I really love what you pointed out and highlighted about like kind of focusing on the commonalities between yourself and teammates. Because I think obviously like in terms of like a teammate as like a friend or a partner, it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of commonality. But sometimes at work or school or in sport, we don't have a ton in common with other people. So finding like the common points, even if it's just like you have a similar end goal or, you're struggling with the same skill, whatever it is focusing on that. And then also I think just the act of like taking a bigger view of our teammates, like they're not just a doctor or just someone on our sports team. They're also, going through maybe something at home. Maybe if they're acting stressed, like realizing that it's not necessarily about you, it might be about something else. And that's why I really appreciate what you said there about, taking that kind of getting to know them outside of just their role on the team. Yeah, I think that's important. And I think one thing that is easy to get stuck in when we're on a team is that we just, build that relationship within the team. Like we spend time at practice or at work, at school, but do you have any advice for having a good relationship with teammates outside of just the sport or the activity that you're together with?
Yeah, well, I think you got to hang out together, right? You got to do things that are not really let's just say it's hockey as an example. So I come to the rink and I'm with my teammates, but I'm probably going to learn more about my teammates by like going to a movie or go out for dinner or hang out at the mall, which I never did. I never had time to do that, but bring them over to your house and, hang out, those kinds of things. Or when you're on a road trip, like you guys go out, as a group and go for a walk, go get a coffee, whatever it is, right? So those types of things when it's not in the stress of the environment that you're in as a team is really where people let their guard down and where they're their authentic selves. And that's where you get to learn about people and also understand and have empathy maybe when they aren't having a good day or times get tough that, oh, hey, I know why that's happening. And then that allows us to be better teammates.
Absolutely. I think having that empathy and trying to take their point, I feel like oftentimes we can come off at like a defensive standpoint. We want to, maybe if they're being a little bit rude or stressed out, we can easily take this personally and then try to defend ourselves while trying to come at it like from their perspective to see maybe what's going on with them and then talking to them about it, saying, hey, like, what's going on? Are you okay? I've noticed that you've been acting out a little bit. I feel like that can also create a stronger connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Anastasia. The ability to ask somebody like why they're behaving the way they are, like in a very kind, empathetic way, you'll often be surprised the answer you get back. It's often what you don't expect. So usually inside the world of like medicine or hockey, when somebody's struggling, a high performance sport like that, it's usually something away from the ice that's bugging them, right? And so, and that's when people have performance problems, things that going on at school and someone's off, a student or a friend, it's probably something not happening at school. So sometimes just asking, hey, like, is everything okay? Are you doing all right? Can make a big difference, and you'll be surprised the answer you get.
Absolutely. And you pivoted from pursuing your childhood dream to attending medical school. We as teens oftentimes feel like we have to commit our entire lives to a career. And we start to fear the act of actually making that choice. What's your advice to a teen or adult who feels stuck and wants to pivot?
Okay, well, my advice is probably very unconventional because my life has been unconventional, but My son Noah is 25 and he's doing his master's degree in Stockholm, Sweden in art history. And he was telling me the other day, like, I'm going to finish my thesis next June, and then I don't know what I'm going to do, and I better have a job, and I have to have my life all figured out. And I was like, no, you don't. You're going to finish your thesis, but before you finish your thesis, you have another 7 months that great and wonderful things are going to happen. And you're going to just, continue to just plod along. And if, you don't go into a PhD or you don't start working right out of your master's, it doesn't matter. So I think we feel pressure to, yes, we go to high school, then we go to university, then we get a job, and this is what we do. I did those things. I went to high school. It took me 16 years to get my undergrad degree at university because I was finishing a few Olympic Games and raising my son. And then I went into med school when I was 38 years old. So I did everything like the opposite, and all backwards. And what I can say is it all worked out. And so you might feel that pressure that I have to do A, B, C, D, but life isn't really like that. Life kind of throws us obstacles, and sometimes a better door or a unique door might open. And what I would say is, you've got to trust your gut and trust your heart. And if you will forever in your life regret that thing that you didn't do because you think someone else wants you to do that thing, it's probably something that you need to go and do. And so for me, I don't have any regrets looking back because I always followed my passion and my heart. And I was also always able to make a bit of a living doing it. And so that is another important thing. We can't just run around and, do what we want and that kind of thing. But I think there is a way that we can explore a lot of our interests. And you have to follow your heart and soul, because if going to university, doing a degree, being whatever is what your mom and dad want you to do, but not necessarily what you want to do, you're probably not going to finish that thing anyways.
It's true. It's so true. And I love what you said about, taking those unique opportunities and being okay with, maybe waiting a few years before you pursue the next kind of conventional checklist item. Doesn't mean that if you don't go to university or get a postgraduate degree right away that you're never going to. It just means that right now you're doing something else and gathering that experience in the opportunity. And I always like to think, we talked with Sahil Bloom, who's a major best-selling author, and he told us about, it's nice and everyone kind of encourages this idea of having a 5-year plan. Where do I want to be once I graduate? What do I want to do? And kind of working backwards from that. But it's kind of dangerous in that sense, is then you're going to just pass by all these opportunities that might show up along the way within those 5 years or 10 years. And so you don't want to. You want to have maybe somewhat of an idea of who you are, what you're interested in, what you want to do, but not be so grounded in I'm going to be a doctor by the time I'm 30 because that's what I need to do. And I think that it's an important thing to be open
Absolutely.
And aware of what's going on around us as it comes.
Definitely, and realizing that our identity is always changing.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you, my son, for example, he's doing an art history degree, loves military studies, things like that. But the thing that I think he might be most passionate about is menswear, tailoring and fitting clothing and making clothing and things like that. So he's working, and he always has worked at these menswear stores through his life to this point. And deep down inside, if he heard this, he'd laugh. But I have a feeling he's maybe going to run a menswear store someday. I don't even know if he's going to use this darn art history degree. So that's okay. He's got a lot of passions, and I think you should pursue them while you're young, and you can.
I love that.
Absolutely. Just because you have an art history degree does not mean you have to do something art history related.
Or even forever. You can do
exactly.
it for a bit.
You can do it for a bit, and then you can run a menswear brand.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. And you know what? The other thing I'll tell you about him, too, which is kind of cool for kids your age, is when he was in grade 4, we went to Sweden to play. I was playing pro hockey there, and he was in grade 4, and it was a Swedish-speaking school only. So he had to learn how to speak Swedish, and we called it Swinglish because he would go back and forth between Swedish and English. And he said to me when he was in grade 4, "Mom, someday I'm going to live in Sweden." And I was like, "Oh, that's a nice dream. Sure, that's good, son." And sure enough, he's living in Sweden. So there is something to be said about the education of the institution of university, college, whatever it is, but there also is the education of the world. And if I could give anybody any advice in life, I would say travel. travel wherever and however you can, because it is amazing the world that exists outside of, our little worlds that we live in.
I've heard so many people talking about, like, if you study French at school, or if you even, become absolutely fluent in it in university, and then you go to France, the country, and you're trying to speak it there, and people just don't understand you and you don't understand them, because you actually have to be a part of the culture, because the language is so powerful there. You just need to be a part of it and learn from there. And I think that's so powerful, and I'm sure that his experience having to learn Swedish at 10 has really benefited him now by living in Sweden.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because going back to Stockholm this year, I said, Noah, how's your Swedish? And he said he lost it all, but he started to take Swedish lessons again, and he's able to work at a menswear store in Sweden, so he can use a little bit of it, and I guess it's still Swinglish. But you're right, if you don't use it, you lose it, I think, with those languages, but learning one young definitely helps you to keep it later.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And pivoting back to you, today you're the assistant general manager for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So what is it like being behind the scenes versus while you were the player?
Well, it's different. Being a player is the best. It's the best thing, because you're just in it. You're in the mix all the time, and everything is about the performance on the ice. But I'm I guess right in the mix in a different way now, in the sense that I'm on the ice with the players on a fairly regular basis, and my job is to run all of player development with a staff of 10 other people that we have, and whether it's on the ice or off the ice, we're just trying to help players get better. And so whether it's skill development, or if they're having a struggle off the ice they need help with, liaising with the off-ice strength and conditioning staff, all that stuff. So I get invested. I guess it's not to the degree that I was as a player, but I still live and die sort of like with every game, and you get to know these guys so well, and you watch them, and you get to learn about who they are as people and how much hockey means to the city of Toronto, and winning a Stanley Cup could be here. And so I guess it's kind of, I get to fill that void that I had left as a player, and working in the biggest hockey market and hockey team in the world is pretty cool.
I bet. It sounds incredible. And I think it's cool that you get to, experience kind of both sides of it. You get to have that player experience, and then also now helping other players with your own experiences, I think is pretty cool as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And Hayley, since you've spent your life in the rink, we thought we'd play a quick little playoff game, but instead of hockey, it's about happiness. So we came up with a few little gamified questions.
It's like the Stanley Cup of Joy.
Yes, exactly. So first up, we have a few either or questions about which you prefer, just as a little get to know you better for us and our listeners about what you enjoy. So are you more of a coffee or tea person?
Oh, coffee, lots of coffee.
Us too.
Absolutely. If you're going to have a morning workout, would it be in the morning or in the evening?
Definitely the morning. If I wait too long, I'll never do it.
Same, exactly. Would you rather win gold or inspire kids? Which one is more inspiring to you?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think if you win gold, you do inspire kids in the game of women's hockey. So the more, can I say win gold and then inspire kids through winning gold? But I think ultimately when inspiring other people through what you're doing is a very cool job to have.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And when you're training, do you rather to train alone or with teammates?
I train alone now. I used to train with my teammates, but that's kind of my only alone time in the day, so I really cherish that.
It's good to get some alone time.
Absolutely.
And now, a second kind of section. If you could throw one thing that steals your happiness into the penalty box forever, what would it be and why?
Lack of sleep steals my happiness. It makes me like a crazy, miserable person. So I would throw that into the penalty box forever, and wish I could get great 8 hours of sleep every night.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I get it. And what is one happiness habit or ritual that gives you an unfair advantage in life, like a power play?
I think a happiness ritual, so I'll say two. The first is physical training, physical training and exercise, because movement is medicine for me. And I always feel better, and I'm always happy when I've done a workout, I've gone to the gym. It's just like the fuel for me. And the second thing is just sometimes stepping back and just reminding myself, about the things that I'm grateful for, how fortunate I am to have the things in life that I do and the people that are in my life. So just sometimes when you reflect on the great things in your life, you realize that, you have some happiness.
Aw, I
That's
love
so
that.
amazing.
And so now for our final little question before we get back into the main questions, we've got 3 little life situations, and we want you to tell us what would be the happiness move you'd make to kind of boost your mood in these situations. So after you lost a big game, what do you do?
Oh, I go home and hang out with my son.
I love that. When you feel overwhelmed as a doctor.
That is a great one. I laugh with somebody, that make a stupid joke or say something funny with the nurses or a colleague. Just inject funniness into the situation.
And finally, on your happiest days, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm probably outside in nature, with friends or, even on my own, just riding my road bike somewhere with the sun beating down and the heat and peace and quiet. Doing something like that that's a happy day for me.
Incredible.
Absolutely. We love being outside, especially since it's been so nice out this fall.
Yes.
It's been amazing, yes. Canadian autumns are the best.
Totally. Very beautiful.
Sleep is so important for our happiness and well-being, and Mercedes and I have been loving our new Manta sleep masks. This amazing eye mask is 100% blackout, built for side sleepers, and can be made to fit whatever head size you have. They are so great for sleeping, especially when the sun's coming out in the mornings or if you're going to bed a little bit earlier. And they are perfect for travel.
They're also a really fantastic gift idea for the holiday season or just any occasion. Shop now and save 10% off your Manta sleep mask by using the link in our show notes. As you've been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is so incredible, take us into the moment when this was announced. How were you feeling?
Oh my gosh, well, it's a funny story. I was actually in an advanced life support course in medical school. I was doing ACLS, I think. We were doing like resuscitations or something. And Lanny McDonald, who was the chair of the Hockey Hall of Fame at the time, he, very famous hockey player from Calgary with the big mustache. He was calling, and I didn't pick up my cell phone because I couldn't. And so I actually missed the call. And then I remember I called him back, and I was driving past Winsport in Calgary, and the facility that I trained for years and years at. And I just remember looking up at the ski jump and the rink there, and as he's telling me you've been inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I was like, oh man, like I never ever thought this was ever going to be a thing. So it was just a cool moment and kind of a funny story.
That's so funny.
so
It's kind of like
amazing.
your 2 different careers
Exactly.
collide. Yeah.
Yeah, they totally did.
That's awesome.
And your work and positions have opened doors and eyes for current and upcoming female generations. If you could say one thing to the young girls of today, what would it be?
Don't put yourself in a box. I think the box is made to be broken, whatever that is. And, people can be judgy and cruel. The ability to be your own best friend is a really powerful thing because if you speak kindly to yourself and give yourself grace and just sort of like be nice on yourself, the rest of the world will be hard on you as it is. But if you have that dream and it's a little bit different or maybe it seems unreachable, I say go for it, kick the box down and make your own path.
I love that so much, and I think everyone needs that reminder of all ages. But I love what you said about being your own best friend,
Yes.
because I think sometimes we put so much into like, oh, I hope they like me. I hope that when I do this, I'll be good enough. People will like me. They'll think I'm successful or cool or funny. But when you are already enough to yourself, then you can actually go for your goals and find the people who also see you as enough already as well.
Yeah, and I think when we're younger, we think everybody's looking at us and everybody's like judging us. And the truth is as you get older, you realize like no one even cares. No one's really paying attention anyways. So just do you and do your thing and follow your heart.
Absolutely. And I do know sometimes we do get a little bit of judgment from other people around us.
Especially in high school.
Exactly. But realizing that one moment of judgment or a entire journey of following what you're passionate about and what you genuinely love, having that little moment of judgment or that little awkward conversation you have with a friend or someone is so worth it because you get to do something that you absolutely love and are so passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and what you find is as you go through life, you'll find your people. And so, when I went into medical school, one of my friends who was ahead of me by many years, she said, you'll figure out what you want to do in medicine because you'll find your people. And, it turns out emergency medicine is kind of my people. They're kind of like adrenaline junkies, and they're into, being fit, and they all a little bit crazy in some way. All those things that I guess are my people. So you find your people, your friends, the people that accept you for who you are, and forget the rest.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a good thing to keep in mind. Even if it's not right now, you will find your people. And so just keep striding towards that rather than settling for people who aren't your people. If there's a teen who's listening to this right now who is interested in someday becoming a professional athlete, what would be your greatest advice to them?
I think if you're really serious about your sport and you want to be a professional athlete, the things that I think about are the best athletes are the ones that they do the work when no one's watching. So what are you doing when the lights are down, when there's one person in the rink or the gym watching and no one's really paying attention? Are you becoming a master of your craft? Are you getting a PhD in your sport? Are you learning everything that you can about it? Are you training properly? Are you getting enough sleep? Because we know that teenagers especially, you guys need a lot of sleep. Are you conscious of the thoughts that you tell yourself? Are you in self-destructing behaviors and thoughts of like, I'm not going to be good enough, and doubting yourself? Or do you try to build yourself up? Are you working on your skill work, again, when it's practice or when no one's watching? Are you willing to do things that other people aren't going to do? And to become a professional athlete and a really good professional athlete, you have to be a little bit obsessive in a way, and a little bit, I say crazy a lot, I think, this podcast, but a little bit crazy in the sense that the work and the investment that is required is just a lot. And if you're not a little bit obsessed with your sport and wanting to become great at it, it's really, really hard to do that and overcome and get over the top. So, but then at the same time, I would say, are you able to give yourself that grace and be able to rest and step away and chill out and have fun with your friends at times? So, all of that in balance, but it does take a dedication that most people, unless they truly, truly love it, are not really willing or interested to do.
Yeah, to become like the best at something, you really need to be willing to do what most people are not. Like, I always try to think of that, like if you want to be in the top 1% of performers, or the top 1% of like even, getting the best marks in a class or whatever it is, you have to be willing to do what most people wouldn't be for that achievement. What is a piece of advice that you wish you could go back and give to your teenage self?
Be patient, calm down, take a breath, it'll be okay. I think I was not like super patient as a teenager, and I just wanted everything to happen right now. And, I just was not a very patient kid or person. So sometimes I could have just chilled out a little bit and I probably would have got the same result. So take a breath. That would be the advice. And I think the other advice would be like, everything's going to be okay. It'll all work out. Sometimes we worry for no reason, just because we were worried. But at the end of the day, it's hard when you're in the moment, but usually things kind of work out.
I always try to remember this, like, I'm gonna butcher it because it's like in Latin or something, but there's like this like phrase that's like love your fate or whatever. It is something along those lines where it's like you just have to have faith that things are going to work out, and you have to just be willing to kind of become the version of yourself that you want to be, and just trust the process kind of thing. Yeah.
For sure.
So is there something that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness? And if so, what is it?
Yes, there are. So I just love coffee, as I said earlier. So maybe people wouldn't realize or know that I drink way too much coffee, but I have a fancy coffee machine, and so just getting up and the art of just making the coffee, turning it on, letting the water boil, the beans, the whole thing. I think just sitting with a cup of coffee and like watching the news or reading the paper in the morning gives me a lot of happiness for those first 30 minutes of the day. And then generally if I can get my workout in or get to the gym first thing, that's going to put my day on a very good trajectory.
I love that. It's the small, slow start to the day,
Absolutely.
right?
And movement is such a great way to feel happier too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, movement is medicine for sure.
I love that. And Finally, as a final question, Hayley, do you have a motivational quote that you love and remember? And if so, what is it?
Oh, you guys have such great questions. You know, I have a few, but the one that I really love is Robert Frost's poem, Two Roads Diverged in a Wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. So I think that's just like it's a great poem, Robert Frost. We did it in high school, I think. And it's always stayed with me that, like, you know, when you hit that decision time, you can sort of take the less traveled path or the popular path. And a lot of times in my life, I've had to take that less traveled path, and it did make all the difference. And then I would say, like what I said earlier, my little model for myself in medicine and generally in life is, you know, suck a little less every day. So that's one that I hold on to right now.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Those are both beautiful, and I think they're both very important to keep in mind. Hayley, if our audience wants to keep up and learn more about you, where would be the best place for them to check out?
Yeah, so I am on social media, so you can find me on Instagram at hchickwick, I think is my handle. Facebook, my name, and I have my hockey festival, Wickfest, at Wickfest on Instagram, Twitter, all the things as well. If you're a young girl in hockey and you've got a team and you want to come to our hockey festival at some point, but yeah, you can find me there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation.
Yes, you're so inspiring and such a role model to so many people of all ages, especially young girls. So thank you again for all your time today.
Well, you're welcome, guys, and it's so great to see two girls from Calgary just rocking it. So keep it going. I was happy to do this for you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, and thank you so much to Hayley for joining us today.
She is just such an idol and such an icon for so many people, athletes, people interested in science, and honestly everyone in between. So I'm really excited that we got this chance to speak to her. And Sheila, what's your biggest takeaway from today's conversation with Hayley?
I think my biggest takeaway is that you have to fail forward. You know, you can make mistakes and it's totally okay to fail, but as long as it's progressing you forward and you're learning from it and you're getting better, that's all that matters.
A new way to kind of view failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about you?
I like what Hayley said about don't put yourself in a box. I mean, she went from being a professional hockey star to now being a doctor. And I just think it's incredible how, you know, she went back to medical school at 38 because that's what she wanted to do at that point in her life. And it's important to view our lives as long, not as something linear and then, you know, we work and then that's it. I think it's important to kind of just see ourselves and see our lives as something more fluid and changeable, and then we can really kind of live life to the fullest, as Hayley has exemplified. If you enjoyed this conversation, we think you would love our interview with Olympic athlete Penny Alexiak. Penny is one of the most decorated Canadian Olympic athletes, and she talks with us all about winning Olympic medals as a teenager, her story of how she's managed her success from such a young age, as well as her hacks for accepting what we cannot control.
Constantly think about and remind myself that, like, nothing good ever comes from being comfortable. I think you need to push yourself to get to where you want to be, and if you want to be a change maker in the world, you're going to have to do things that other people don't want to do.
Our conversation with Penny is now live. It's linked in the show notes.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please give us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
See you next time.